Trinn Hatch's story of his transformation and his dedication to helping others find relief from suffering is truly remarkable. Let's learn about the wisdom of traditional Tibetan medicine and embark on a journey towards healing and well-being. Hi, it's Margaret Maloney, and welcome to the Death Dhamma podcast. I'm a Buddhist practitioner out here in the world, having experienced the loss of my loved ones and knowing how much my Buddhist practice helped me on my grief journey. And now, together, we have this safe space to discuss death, dying, grief, and the Buddhist teachings that help us really understand attachment, impermanence, being compassionate, being death ready, what it means to live a life so that we can have a peaceful death. Yep, it's a big topic, and we're going to take it on together. Let's go. Trinn Hatch's story of his transformation and his dedication to helping others find relief from suffering is truly remarkable. Let's learn about the wisdom of traditional Tibetan medicine and embark on a journey towards healing and well-being. Today, I welcome, and you do too, everybody, Trinn Hatch, who is the co-creator of Jampha Tibetan Pharmacy. And so definitely, when our topic this time is about suffering, this season is about suffering and relief from suffering, like he's really helping us with relief from suffering and helping us to find paths, because sometimes the traditional paths don't serve all of us. I say that as an understatement. And Trinn had his own pain journey with plenty, I'm sorry, but with plenty of suffering and difficulty finding the right resources and the right way to heal. But I feel like from reading your story and, knowing a tiny bit about you, that you always knew there was a potential for healing. And so I want to say thank you for being here. And I'm going to kind of let you take it away from there to share with us what you would like us to know about that story and the background, and as it relates to how you're helping us now. So welcome and thank you, Trinn.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. It's wonderful to be here. Well, my story really started with suffering. I broke my leg as a security contractor about 12 years ago and was unable to walk or really do anything properly. I almost had it amputated. It was pretty bad. The doctors didn't think that I'd be able to just live a normal life, but my mom, God bless her, said he needs to keep his leg. He'll figure out a way through it. And so that was really the beginning of my journey, was my own suffering. I got to a point where I was on so many medications and on a revolving door with doctors and specialists. I got to the point where I didn't want to live like that anymore, and the suffering was becoming too overwhelming. And at that point, I went out and I prayed, and I kind of just spoke to the universe, to whoever wanted to listen, and said, I don't want to live like this anymore. I can't live in this state. I need to find a way to healing. And if there's a path for me to healing, please, 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 please light it for me and help me find it. And I was brought up as a Christian, and my family always taught me, when you ask for something, you put something on the altar of sacrifice. And so I did that at the time.
Okay.
And said, if I can find a path out of my suffering, then I'll spend the rest of my life helping others find a path out of their suffering. And I didn't really know what that meant and that commitment at that time, but I made it, and it was heartfelt. And within a few weeks, my path to healing started to unfold. Was led to cannabinoids, to CBD, and to terpenes, and started to experiment with those, and was able to get myself off of 16 medications over the course of, it took about 2 years to do it. My blood pressure medications were the hardest to get off, but I did it. And actually, the day that I took myself off the last medication with my doctor's approval, I met my wife. It was this very same evening. So it's
Wow. Oh, you talk about like everything coming together, right? So now, just with what you've said, I've got like 3 questions right away. And so the first one is, I want to talk about your mom. She said, no, he can't lose his leg. Where did that come from in her? Do you know? Did she ever say to you, like, this is why I knew you shouldn't lose your leg?
She told me that, as a child, she always worried about my brothers and sisters, but she always knew deep in her heart that there was nothing to worry about with me. I got into trouble and hurt myself and was, a regular teenager. She felt that way. And so when they wanted to take my leg, she just knew that I would somehow find the strength to get through that. And she felt like that was part of my path, and she didn't want to take that away from me. And so she actually, stood up to the head doctor at the hospital I was at and said, "No, you're not taking my son's leg. I'm his next of kin and I refuse. Do your best you can to fix it." And
Wow, that's
yeah.
amazing. And now, during this time, did you ever have a moment where you thought maybe, sorry, mom, maybe mom was wrong and maybe they should take my leg? Did you ever go through any of that?
I never did. Not that I never had the conscious thought of they should have taken my leg. But I
Hmm.
was so miserable. I mean, my conscious thoughts were few and far between. I was on so many medications. It was hard just to even show up in my own life and get out of bed at that time. I really didn't think that my life was gonna have any happiness or any joy. I thought it was just really gonna be stuck in this pattern of suffering, and it was terrible. But on the other side of that, I look back and I wouldn't change anything because it's brought me to where I am now.
So true with so many of our paths, right? It's we go
Mm,
through this, and everyone goes through suffering. It's just what is it and how is it and when is it? And when we come through, it's not that we'll never have suffering in our lives again, but you're right,
mm,
you're forever changed. You're forever changed.
yes.
But wow, 16 medications. All I can think of is how that just scrambles us. Because I remember watching as my mother-in-law grew older and them giving her more and more medication. And I was just so uncomfortable because I just thought, like, you do this, and then you have to have this, and then you have to do this, and you have to do that, and so you found a solution to help with that. Now my other question, and we know there's going to be more, but this is a much more, I think, a much more practical, easier question. Can you tell us what terpenes are? Terpenes. Tell us about terpenes.
Terpenes are found in every plant. They're
Mhm.
responsible for maintaining and keeping balance the ecosystem, and they also have those same influences on our body. My attraction to terpenes was I started experimenting with different CBD products, and I thought, well, why is there 1,000 CBD products? What makes them different?
Ah.
Okay, well, some of them have different terpenes in there. Well, what does a terpene do? Terpenes direct the healing potential. And so when you have the right formulation or a combination of terpenes, you can greatly increase and enhance the healing potential of traditional plant medicine.
Mhm.
Actually, our Tibetan physician Amchi, he when he came to meet us for the first time, recognized what we were doing with terpenes and said that when he was studying in Mensi Kang at the Dalai Lama's medical institute, that he could see the terpenes actually leaving the botanicals as they were being dried. And he asked the Lama physician that was teaching him at the time, and he said, "Yes, this is the life force energy of plants. It's just like when our spirit leaves our body, the terpenes leave the plants and the life force energy leaves." And
Mhm.
so we've been able to bring terpenes back into traditional lineage-based medicine.
Mhm.
Well, they've never been possible to isolate in the way that we can now, thanks to the hemp and cannabis industries.
Mhm.
So we add these terpenes in different synergistic combinations to enhance and increase the potential of all of our formulas.
And I think this is a really important point because I live in a location, and many of us do, where I can walk easily to a dispensary to get all kinds of different things, with cannabis in it. And then there's things you can buy other places with lotions and potions and things. And I don't know, about the efficacy of those, but what I'm feeling and hearing from you is the study and the background. So the true, I'll say, knowing of how things work together, as opposed to just giving me a cute little gummy. And with no disrespect to gummies, which do serve a purpose. But,
Mhm.
and so I'm feeling like your work with Amchi really helped the understanding of how things work together. Is it fair to say that?
Yeah, it absolutely is. We started a CBD company, my wife and I, because I'd had so much success with it. She was actually the driving force. I said, I don't want to start a company. Do you know how hard that is? I just came off disability.
I love that.
She said, no, we need to do this because you have something that you need to share with the world. We need to do
Mhm.
this. And she leveraged her company and we started our company. And we started as a CBD formulation and terpene company. We
Mhm.
worked with doctors and biochemists and FDA food scientists, spent a lot of money and time on research and development,
Mhm.
and created a product line. And we did really well with that. But when I met Amchi, I realized that we were only using a very small part of the ocean of healing that's out there and really hadn't tapped into the botanical and mineral kingdoms. And the CBD industry really hasn't done that yet. And when they do, things will take off in a different direction. But now, there's a lot of CBD products out there with good intentions, but they're they're targeted towards helping symptoms, not so much heal the cause of the problem. And
Okay.
CBD can be very beneficial for that, but it just has to be in the right formulation.
I think that what you offer, and I did look, and I looked at the many things that you offered, and I know you've sent me some things for me to test, which I'm really looking forward to trying. It's that I think it's going to go a level deeper than just taking care of a headache or taking care of feeling tense. It's going to help with the root cause. Is that true?
Yes, it's very true.
Mm-hmm.
The spiritual aspect of healing is something that was lost to me. In my own experience, I worked on the physical and I was doing internal work, but I had PTSD after my injury that was really bad, and even with all of the success I'd had with CBD and terpenes, that still lingered, and it would pop its head up every now and again. Since working with Amchi and creating Tibetan medicine, it's really addressed the spiritual and emotional sides of healing. And so I felt a huge difference in what I was able to create myself and what Amchi has been able to create for us. And my healing has continued. I went from being off my medications and being able to get through life, but not being able to ride a bike or walk with my
Mm-hmm.
dog long distances. Now I can do all of those things. And that's really thanks to the regenerative and restorative power of Tibetan medicine.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And so when we speak about that of Tibetan medicine, and we're also talking about Tibetan Buddhism in many ways. And so I'm going to come back to that noble truth of suffering because across our Buddhist traditions we do share the Four Noble Truths, and so I'm thinking you have come to understand the noble truth of suffering from your own perspective, from traditional medicine, and then from Tibetan medicine. And so this is never a trick question when I ask people this, but can you share with me your understanding of, the truth of suffering?
Yeah, the truth of suffering for me was really the gateway to the truth of everything. Until I was really in the clutches of my own suffering and misery, I couldn't see a path
Mm-hmm.
out of that. It was really when I hit rock bottom that things started to lighten and become potentials and possibilities. The suffering, it's really hard to watch somebody else suffer. In watching my family, especially my mother, she went through a pretty intensive health ordeal, and I felt helpless to do anything for her. And that feeling really led me to want to, whatever I could do in my life to relieve the suffering of others, I wanted to do it. And,
Okay.
I've made that commitment and tried to stick with it. But, I still experience suffering myself. We have loss, we lose family members and loved
Mhm.
ones. And it's an ongoing part of life, but it's also a reminder that, our time is not infinite. We're here for a finite amount of time, and we should use every moment of every day to um, to relieve our own suffering and also to help relieve the suffering of others.
So I'm sensing this integration of you had this deep, deep suffering, and in the depths of your suffering, you knew there must be a different way, and you had the faith of your mother. You knew there had to be a better way. And it sounds like when you got to this really extreme place, it's when it pushed you to consider or be open to a different way. And so you started finding this different way. And then Amchi comes along and also teaches you how to use these herbs in from the thousands, I won't say thousands, maybe hundreds, maybe thousands of years of
Of
research.
thousands,
Thousands, it's thousands of years of research, right?
2,500 years. Yeah, that's
There
how
you
long the
go. Yeah,
lineage has been
2,500
unbroken
years
for.
of research. And then also you meet your beautiful wife who pushes you to start this company. And this ties back to the promise that you made, which at the time you made it from more of the Christian perspective, right? But still a promise to the world and the universe is a promise, which is if I get through this, I will help others. And all of these things come together. And now here you are. And I don't mean
Yeah.
that in a simplistic way. I'm just like following like the arc of the story, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's very true.
Mhm.
It's, I look back and it feels like a movie. It's part of my, just the last 5 years of my life, everything's happened with such amazing synchronicity and just kind of flowed into our awareness. It's been magical and beautiful.
Mhm.
Um, when we realized that we were working with CBD and terpenes, but there was so much more out there, I actually signed up for a PhD program and was going to go and learn
Mhm.
herbology. I thought we need to incorporate what's already out there into what we're doing. And my wife said, "You're never home any. You're never home as it is. How are you ever going to have any time for your family if you're working 4 or 6 hours a day, studying on top of your work? You're
Right.
never here anyway." And I said, "Well, it's a sacrifice you're going to have to make to help others and to get our company to where we want it to be and to be able more expansive in what we're able to do. And she said, well, why don't you find somebody who can already do that? And I said, well, business partners, egos, money. I don't want to be following
Mm-hmm.
somebody else's, all the stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
she said, well, we can at least try. You prayed once and asked the universe to help and it helped. Let's ask again. I said, okay. So we actually wrote down on a piece of paper in a little manifestation ceremony and asked the
Mm-hmm.
universe to bless us with somebody who already had that wisdom and knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And not even 2 weeks later, she got a LinkedIn message. And the message said something like this: my name is Amchi Thubten. My guides have led me to you, and I would like to come and speak with you about what you're doing with terpenes. She came into my office and she said, I got this weird LinkedIn message. I haven't had a LinkedIn message in 3 years, but all of a sudden this mad scientist looking guy with this crazy hair and
Has come to me.
has come to me. And I didn't even know what an Amchi was. I thought, well, that's an interesting name, Amchi, huh? And so, he very gently led us into an awareness of what we were doing. And that's how we really began. He started emailing me back and forth, and for 3 months we emailed probably 4 or 5 times a day. And then one day he just showed up at the facility and walked in the door. Stood there looking at him from upstairs, and he was looking at me, and his head was bobbing around. He was really checking me out, and I thought, wow, there's something to this guy. Went down and
Right.
shook his hand, and it was like a field generated around us, and we just went into this flow of back and forth, and there was a real synergy between our energies, and we just seemed to know each other. And that
You
led
did.
to
Right.
yeah, that
You
led to
did.
2 years of nonstop him teaching and me asking questions and learning. And at the end of that period, we decided to bring our companies together and bring what he's been doing for the last 50 years into an expression through Jampha Tibetan Pharmacy and really share it with the world.
That's beautiful. So many, and there's so much there, so first of all, this beautiful partnership that you have with your wife, that you both kind of, you have this great way of balancing each other out, right? Because she came
Yes,
to you and she's like, you don't need to do that, do this. But also that, you trust and pay attention to one another. And so from that brought this, out into the universe, which brought Amchi. And it's just such a nice lesson in when I'll say, let go in the right ways, how things can come. And,
that's very true.
yeah, that's beautiful. And so now here you are. So you're with the pharmacy, with products that are aimed at helping us. And so I'm just curious, what right now, as people are working with you, what is the most common suffering that you're encountering?
It's a good question. About, let's see, 3 or 4 months ago, I went to Amchi and I said, I've been working with some of these customers with their protocols, and there's just some block to their healing. I don't know what, I can't figure it out. What is stopping them from really getting into their healing trajectory? And he kind of went quiet for a few minutes and came back and he said, we need to make a formula for the heart, Trinla. And I said, well, why do we need to make a formula for the heart? He said, because so many people have emotions and traumas that are trapped in the neural network of their hearts, and they're not doing anything to release that. And that is a block to their healing on a physical level. And I went, oh. And in my mind, I'm thinking, wow, something for the heart. Maybe that'll help me with PTSD. And then he intuited what I was thinking, and said, we can make something for PTSD. We can make
Mhm.
something for people with schizophrenia, bipolar, people that are really suffering. And so we created a formula called Healing Heart. And that's actually become one of our most popular formulas now, because so many people aren't even aware of how much has really become trapped and stored there. And this formula, thanks to Tibetan medicine, is extremely profound at helping to dissolve and release that, and just opening up space within your heart for beautiful and healing things. So I've seen that as one big area
Mhm.
that we focused on. Another one would probably be Lyme, fungus, and mold. We seem
Oh,
to,
really? Okay.
yeah, especially here in the Northwest, we have a lot of that. But a lot of people are dealing with chronic health conditions, and those are the
Hmm.
underlying causes, but they're never being addressed. And
Hmm.
so we created a formula called Lyme, fungus, mold, or LIFMO, and that addresses and remediates Lyme, fungus, and mold. And if all three are co-infecting at the same time, it will address all three. And so that's become a very, very popular formula. A lot of physicians use it. It works better than anything else out there that we've been able to find.
Hmm.
So really those two things I think are the most prevalent, that come up the most. But there's a lot more as well.
Oh, sure. And I'm sure there's a lot more that you're going to do. But, when you're talking about the Lyme and the mold, it's so interesting. So in a world where there's no coincidences, yesterday I was walking home from something, and around the corner was this truck, and the name on the truck was Mold Men. And Mold Men, I'm like, it sounds like something from a scary movie, right? But as you get closer and you see the truck, that's what they do. They're coming to treat mold, in our homes and things. And the other thing is, I have family, on the other coast, on the East Coast, and this is pertinent to the Pacific Northwest too, though, that I remember one time my cousin was saying, she says at some point here, probably almost all of us have some form of Lyme, because you can't go hiking in the forest without there being ticks. And she says it's just a function of, some of us are okay, like it doesn't harm us, or we're able to fight it off, and some of us aren't. And I thought, wow, it was such an interesting, I'll say, philosophical view on just Lyme disease, as prevalent as it is. And so you're seeing that pop up, that of the
Yeah.
people who are not able to just process it, huh?
It's usually one of the two things. It's either there's an underlying cause with the Lyme fungus or mold, or there's some things that need to be healed within the heart. Those seem to be the two biggest blocks to our healing protocols, really getting people onto a trajectory where they're noticing a huge difference and shift, mind, body, and spirit.
So I think this word protocol is really important, because I'm perceiving that, first of all, we can go online to Jampha Tibetan Pharmacy and buy things. Absolutely, right? I can just
Sure.
go click and buy something. But the word protocol to me is also implying that I can do that, but then I can also perhaps get some really good guidance on, not just, Margaret, put this drop under your tongue, but also there's more, right? The protocol is more. And so maybe
Yeah.
you would share with us some of how the protocol works, or a.
Yeah, we offer consultation services. So through healme.com, heal.me/Jampa.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll help people to create their protocol and give them
Mhm,
advice and support throughout their protocol period. Generally, a protocol lasts between 30 and 90 days. If it's an acute issue, 30 days is usually enough time to deal with it. If
mhm.
it's a chronic issue, 90 days is usually enough time to help somebody into a healing trajectory that they can continue without having to take our medicine. They can continue eating well and drinking well and having a good lifestyle, and that healing will continue. Um, Protocols really, they're unique and different to everybody, so we can't just say here's a protocol for A, here's a protocol for B, here's a protocol for C, because it's going to be different depending on the other circumstances that a person's dealing with. But
Mhm.
generally we'll have set up doses at like 7 a.m. and 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. every 4 hours, and
Okay.
depending on what support's needed, we'll alternate the different formulas to give the
Mhm.
body around the clock support. The beautiful thing about Tibetan medicine is the basic premise is to do no harm. And so in, 5 years almost of doing this now, haven't had any interactions, no calls from doctors saying, what did your medicine do to my patient? It's actually the other way around. They call and they say, hey, what are you giving my patient? Why? What's going on? Well, they can move their finger. They can move their fingers again, or they can move their toes again, or they're able to stand up and they've been in a wheelchair for 10 years. Really miraculous
That's
things. But
beautiful. That's
like
beautiful.
I, yeah, like I say to them when they call, they say, we're not healing anybody. They call and they say, what are you doing?
Mhm.
Promising a cure to my patient. Well, no, we're letting them know that their body's innate healing systems are capable of regeneration and healing. And we're awakening those systems and then supporting them with botanicals and minerals. But no product that we give you is going to heal you. It's you that's going to heal yourself. You just need the right support.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I can see where you get a number of phone calls of, who are you? How dare you? I'm going to report you. And then, but hopefully, I hope some of those people are some of the ones who come back at the end to say, who are you?
They become our
Thank
customers.
you. What did you do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. The last naturopath that called, she's a 70-year-old lady. She had two patients that showed up in the same week and both were using our products. And so she called and she was like, I want to know more about your company. She was very nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then we started talking about her health and realized that she had some chronic issues that she had not been able to deal with her whole life. And she was a physician. And so she said, well, what can you do for this? And I said, well, we just assign a protocol and you take it, for 90 days and see how you do. She did that and she had marvelous effects. And now she's one of our best referrers. Instead of trying to make money off the products and selling them to her patients, she just sends the patients directly to us and
Beautiful.
trusts that we'll give them the support that they need.
Beautiful. And I love that because I do think that there can be this wonderful interplay between, what we'll call Western slash traditional medicine and the work that you're doing. Because, if I'm I'm going to be dramatic. If I'm lying there, with an open bleeding gash, we're going to stitch me up. And that's what makes
Mhm.
sense, right? But after we stitch me up,
Then what?
then what? Then
Yeah.
maybe that's when, not maybe, but that's when I need your protocol for the aftermath. Maybe the phantom pain, maybe depending on how I got gashed open, the trauma. And so it's nice when we can really have pardon the buzzword, the synergistic relationship between these items.
Yeah, Tibetan medicine works really compatibly with everything. If
Mhm.
people are using supplements or different herbs, they're not going to cause any interactions or stop the formulas from working to their highest potential. And that's, I've had so many interactions. That's why I was on so many medications, because they give me a new medication and then I'd get anxiety and then they give me something for the anxiety and then I couldn't sleep and they give me something for the sleep and then I couldn't eat and they give me something to help me eat. It was just constantly here, have something else, have something else, have something else. And that never gets you in balance. But Tibetan medicine is marvelous for regeneration and restorative properties. But I wouldn't be here without Western medicine. Tibetan medicine didn't have the ability to put my leg into external fixation and
Right.
reattach my bones and graft skin and deal with infections, on a cellular level that are in an open wound. All of that was really it was necessary to be taken care of through Western medicine. But man, I'll tell you what, after I'd done with the surgeries and started with the medications, nothing got better. Everything just got more complicated and got worse.
Mm.
And, my experience with Tibetan medicine has been the complete opposite.
And is there a meditative component in the protocols? Because some of us, outside of talking about this, well, it's not really outside of talking about this, but some of us will have like, a meditation practice or a chanting practice, and visualizations. And I know that, obviously that is true in Tibetan Buddhism. And so I'm wondering, do you add that component to the protocol?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Yes, we use the medicine Buddha mantra in our formula creation. Yeah, I mean, the meditation has been new to me since I met Amchi. He's been helping me. What I
Okay.
was doing as meditation before really wasn't meditation.
Hmm.
So that's become my part of my own journey, and in my own experiences, I share that with the people that I'm working with. So Sua Rigpa, which is the medicine Buddha science of healing, it's a huge component of that is meditation and mindfulness. Sua means nourishing, and Rigpa means awareness. So nourishing awareness, and what better time to do that than during meditation?
Hmm.
So some people will have, all kinds of mental fabrications and blocks and obstacles to their own healing. They don't think they're worthy of it. They don't think that it's going to happen for them. And sometimes meditation is the best path for them to quieten that down and come to a place of acceptance and worthiness for them to be able to heal whatever those feelings are that are causing those unworthiness feelings. Meditation for me has opened up doors to introspection that I never knew were possible. Being
Hmm.
able to follow a thread of an experience back to a childhood and process and deal with it, that was never possible just with the power of my mind
Sure.
until I really embraced meditation.
That makes sense. And so, you are doing this work, you're working, first of all, obviously you're already working really hard, as your wife pointed out, you're so busy and she needs time with you. And so in some ways, even when you're doing good work, it still can be really tiring. And so I'm just curious, like, how are you regenerating yourself? What do you do to help maintain your reserves?
That's a really good question. I've had to learn that lesson in the past few months, especially. A part of the healing heart formula that we made was Amchi recognized that I was, taking on other people's energy. I was spending 10, 12 hours a day sometime talking to sick people, and I
Mhm.
hadn't ever been even aware myself that I needed to do something to ground and process that. And so the healing heart formula helped me, really became a catalyst for that process. But now, and every morning before I even get to work, before I begin, I have my meditations and prepare myself, and every evening I have my meditations and close my day off and examine everything that's happened and make decisions on how I can do things better in the next day, and let myself leave what's happened in that day in that day. And so when I wake up the next morning, things are fresh, vibrant, and new. I
Okay.
can start all
Okay.
over again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Because like when one of my teachers said to me, you can't give what you don't have, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
that is true, that taking on of the energy of others. So, it's you have this wonderful partner and guide with
he
you.
really is.
Yeah.
He's a um, yeah, I feel very blessed, just to be on this path and to have the guidance that we have. I couldn't have dreamed that this would be how it would turn out when we wrote on a piece of paper and asked for help. But the universe is wonderful and amazing, and it's a real reminder that sometimes the only thing stopping us from getting the things that we need and desire is asking.
Right. We forget that we can ask. True
Mm.
in just regular face-to-face communications, and true
Yes,
in all paths of our lives, isn't it? I just have two
yes, it is.
questions
Mhm.
left, but we can talk more. But I have two questions left because I appreciate how generous you're being with your time in your heart space.
My
Do you have
pleasure.
some other tips for us? Do you have any tips you'd like to give us?
Whatever path you're on for healing, people think, I want to finish what I've started, or do one thing at a time. The truth is that your body is a marvelous healer. It has within it the innate ability to regenerate, restore, and heal itself on levels that we can't even comprehend. And so when you tap into that inner wisdom and support it with medicine that's really focused on balancing the mind, the body, and the spirit, it opens up new levels of awareness for your own healing, your own health and vitality, and really begins to lead you and take you by the hand in the right direction for your best health. And so you can use these products with anything that you're doing. You can
Mhm.
incorporate them one at a time or begin with a protocol. Really, for most people, understanding the benefits and the power and the potentials of using these Tibetan medicine products, all they need to do is pick the bottle up. There's so much spiritual energy that's imbued and consecrated into these formulas that you can feel it if you have even just um, the slightest ability to feel energy. You're going to feel it. I get messages and emails on a regular basis from people. I opened up the box and this most beautiful energy came off here, and I don't even want to open the bottles. I just want to sit them there and look at them. And it's really a testament to the mendrup, which is a Tibetan word for consecration, that goes into the botanicals, the formulas. When they're at the monastery, before they even reach us, they go through all kinds of mantra and prayers and puja ceremonies, and then we
Mhm.
receive them, and we go through our own spiritual generation process to increase the blessings and the spiritual potency of the formulas. And so there's a huge amount of just conscious good energy that goes into this process long before we ever get the products. I haven't seen that in any other industry or any other
Mhm.
practice of medicine or health, never to the extent that I see it here.
Mhm.
One of my favorite things is when we receive the Tibetan pill medicines. So those come directly from the Buddhist medical monasteries in Nepal and Bhutan and Siberia, and they are the epitome of Eastern medicine. The special Rinchen pills, they're called, or precious jewel pills, been around for thousands of years, spoken of in the sutras. They're actually using different toxic element removed precious metals, as well as different crystals and gems, as well as the botanicals. And they offer healing support unlike anything I've ever experienced myself. I used some of those pills and was able to regenerate a nerve that I've been shot through the hand and severed a nerve, and
Ooh.
was lost feeling in three of my fingers, and my nerves regenerated and I have my feeling back. And that was 12, 14 years ago. I actually called Amchi, or texted Amchi one day and said, "Hey, I got this feeling coming out of my fingers. It's like feel like Harry Potter in Hogwarts and my wand won't turn off." He's like, "Well, that's odd." He's like, "Well, let me know how it is in the morning." So I asked him again in the morning. I said, "Yeah, it's just getting stronger." He's like, "Well, did you have some nerve damage in that hand?" And I went, "No." And then I went, "Oh, hang on a second. because I can't even see the scar really anymore because our lotions got rid of the scar. And he said, well, you're probably regenerating your nerve. Within 2
And you
days,
lived
my
with it for
feeling had
so
come
long,
back.
you forgot.
Yeah, I forgot.
Oh
I
my.
wasn't able to massage my wife because my fingers would be, I'd do it so hard. She'd be like, ah. Now I can massage my
You can
wife.
touch. Yeah, you couldn't tell. Oh my gosh. Wow, that is amazing. All right. Okay. So before I let you go away to your day, I just want to check in. Is there something you wanted to share? Maybe there's something I didn't ask or something you wanted to share that you haven't gotten to share yet. I want to make sure that you do get to share.
Yeah, I think I've shared most of what I wanted to. No, I just say there's probably a lot of people out there who are going to listen to this podcast and maybe have a family member or a loved one who's been ill or chronically sick for a long time and nothing's worked. This works if you're willing to give it another try, and support yourself or your family members. Please just get in contact with us, and we'll help you to know what's possible, and
Mhm.
then to support you in whatever decision you make on your journey.
Okay. So let's remind everyone how the best way to find you again. Thanks.
Yeah, our website is jampha.com. It's spelled
Okay.
Jampha.com. You can also book a consultation. We're offering free consultations. If you just mention this podcast, we'll comp your consultation, and that address is heal.me/Jampha.
Beautiful.
Heal.me/Jampha.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And I'm so appreciative of the work you're doing. And truly, I'm looking forward to giving some things a try as well. And so I may very soon pop up and ask for a consultation myself. So I'm looking
Would
forward
be
to that.
honored to do that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a wonderful, wonderful conversation, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you.
I've got books for you, starting with Carpooling with Death, How Living with Death Will Make You Stronger, Wiser, and Fearless, the book that got me going and helped me to discuss going through the death of my loved ones, followed by Sitting with Death, Buddhist insights to help you face your fears and live a peaceful life, based on Season 1 of the Death Dhamma podcast, and just recently, Enlightenment Unleashed, how your pet can lead you to spiritual transformation, because during our lifetime, we may see the rising and ceasing of many pets, and we love them like they are our family. Find these on Amazon.com or come see me at MargaretMaloney.com. You've been listening to the Death Dhamma podcast with your host, Margaret Maloney. Thank you so much for being here. Come find me on MargaretMaloney.com, MargaretMeloni.com. And until we meet again, may you be well, may you be happy, may you be